Okay, but why does it don't feel real right now? I have a new apartment. I have a new apartment. I have an apartment and now I have a new apartment. I lived in Brooklyn and I live in Manhattan. I had a certain amount of space in storage and now I have more space, more storage. I used to pay a lot more money for rent and now I'm paying less than half of that, y'all. Less than half of my rent that I was paying before. My rent before was $19.25. I'm paying less than $1,000 to stay in my place right now in Manhattan. Stop. Like, if you try to tell me that's not God, like I don't even know what to say. I don't know what to say to you. That's God. Because who else, how else could that happen? And keep in mind, me, do not have a job. I can't believe it. So if you look back, I have a vlog that I did where I was like, I'm circling around this apartment and this is gonna be my apartment. That's what I said. And it happened. It happened. I got the apartment. And as you can see, I am moving in, or I moved in. I'm straightening in. I have not had a job in a little bit over a year now. And in that time, I have been living in a place that I was living in when I had a job. And that rent was the rent that it was when I had a job. It has been a journey of me having faith, of me believing, of me spending money and not know how I'm gonna get the money back, and just feeling very insecure about housing. And God being very secure in the fact that he's my security, that he'll provide for me all the things. And so I have been able to stay at that apartment for over a year and just be very, very thankful that I have somewhere to live. My time at that apartment was up and I was really nervous because I was like, okay, I can't resign here because it's a lot of money. So God, what we doing? Like, what we got going on? And I won the housing lottery. So I live in New York. New York has a housing lottery where you can put in your information, how much you make, how many people are in your household, and then there are a list of properties that, even if it's new or if it's old, whatever, there's a certain percentage of units that they have to have for income-based housing. Now, income-based can mean an array of things. So you could make 6 figures and it could be income-based if the apartments is the apartments that celebs could stay in, or not even celebs could stay in, but you know what I mean? Just like it costs $5,000 a month, and let's say you can only afford $2,000 a month, then you would be low income for that income of that place. But then there are other spots where it could be $1,000 a month and you can't afford that, and so it's like, you know, different. So it's tailored to what the building has going on, and then income based is based on what you have going on. So I won the lottery 2 years ago, and actually after I moved into my lottery unit, I won 2 more times. And I feel like God was showing off of like, oh, you were never not gonna have a home. If it wasn't this one that I moved into, I had 2 more in the cannon for you. Like, you would have had something. And so I felt very just thankful, and I was reminded of that when I was applying for housing this time. So something told me I actually wasn't going to win the lottery this time I applied, but something told me I wasn't going to win because I was expecting God to show up in the same way. And we do that sometimes. It's like, oh, well, you did this, and because you're the same guy, like, show up again. And God's like, I want to flex on you and everybody you know and show up in a new way. I kind of had that feeling, that vibe. And one night, I can't even tell you what inspired me to do it, but I was up and I just started Googling some stuff and was looking some things up because I'm like, I do need a home. Like, I need to find somewhere to live. Found this list, and it was a list of different units that had income-based housing, but they weren't listed in the lottery. And it was like over easily at least 300 emails on there. Some were far away in New York, some were in New York City, there were Brooklyn, Queens, Bronx, everywhere. So I went through the list and I went through just trying to find the units, how much were they per month, and seeing what I thought I could afford. Now, mind you, I still don't have a job. Like, I have done an odd end thing here. I've hosted an event and I've gotten money from that or whatever, but I don't have like a consistent every 2 weeks, every month, I'm getting a check from anything, right? And so I'm like, okay, even after I apply for a place, I don't know, I'm gonna pay the rent every month. That's the same issue, even if I have a new space to have the issue in. And honestly, it almost deterred me from applying, but I was like, you know what? It's not up to me. It's up to God. But God ain't gonna come on this Mac and apply. I have to do that. So I'm gonna do my part, and then everything else, I'm like, okay, God, what's T? Like, what you got? So I was applying to anything that was on the low end of low end that I could live in. And I was looking at spaces primarily in Manhattan, but then also in Brooklyn. I applied, one space got back to me, and they were like, hey, fill out all these forms. It took like a month and a half for me to confirm for this place. There was a lot of paperwork I had to fill out, a lot of things. And I had to fill out one thing that was really key, and I think really prophetic for me, was this self-employment projective income document. So I kind of have to put, since they usually check your taxes and things to see how much they think you'll make this year to determine if you can pay the rent. I lost my job, and because of that, I wasn't gonna be able to like give them the same documentation and show like, oh yeah, I can pay the rent. So I made this self-employment income projector, and I put things on there that were scary. Like I put amount that I make from YouTube. I ain't making no money from YouTube, right? But I had to be like, okay, but if you are, what do you think you can get? Even, and I put it the next year, but even at the end of this year, like what could you make from YouTube? I put, if I book this gig, if I get another hosting client, if I get to do another panel for somebody and moderate it, like what would you charge? If you could do that 2 more times this year, what would that income be like, right? So just adding it up, and it stretched my faith to one, see the potential of like, I'm in a new space. And before, if I would have been applying for a place a year ago, I wouldn't have had that mindset. I wouldn't have even applied and filled out the paperwork, because I'm like, well, I don't have income. So, and that just would have been the period, the end of the story. Where this, I was like, okay, well, how do I think I could get income in the next couple months? And how do I project that? And then I write it down, and now it's on paper, now I can see it. Now I have something to pray about. Now I have something to see God meet like my expectation or exceed my expectation, because I dared to write something down. And so it was a really powerful moment for me. I actually teared up when I did it, and I was nervous as heck when I sent it to the people, but I did it. I had to do all these background checks, credit stuff, like all the things. And I was nervous because I'm like, if I wish this was a year ago, because a year ago I was making 6 figures, and of course I wouldn't have gotten approved, but now I don't know. And like all these parameters and things that God don't need. If he wants to give you something, if he wants to bless you something, if it's the time, it's the time. And it was the time for me. And so I took, like I said, a month and a half, but your girl got approved, and I'm sitting in my new apartment right now. I'm just very, very thankful. If you look, I also have a vlog where last year I went on faith to LA. I was like, oh, I'm supposed to leave New York and go to LA. That's why everything's dried up here. That's why things aren't working out here. And I looked at apartments out there. I still have them on my phone. They're gorgeous. They're beautiful. Some of them are more, all of them were more upgraded than the place I'm in right now. And I had the faith, like, yeah, God's moving me to LA. And that's not what happened. I'm in New York. I'm here for a reason. And God's like, oh, I still have blessings for you in New York. Ain't nothing dried up. Ain't nothing dried up. I'm just delivering in a different way, and I see the different way right here. Throughout this process, there were plenty of times where I was like, am I gonna get this apartment? Should I get something else? I actually had a moment where I felt ungrateful, to be honest with you, because I wanted something more lavish than what I got, that had more upgrades than what I got. My floors, I hate the floors in here. This don't grow on me, but I don't like the floors, right? And I don't have stainless steel appliances. I want a stainless steel. Like, I was just, if you're gonna bless me in this way. God, he don't move like that all the time. But I do know that he's faithful. I do know that without him, I wouldn't be sitting here recording this right now. And that there's just so much more than I even think that could be done, because this has been done right here, right now. Yeah, I'm just very, very thankful to him for this moment, for this season, because it's new. And I wanted that. I'm like, if we're gonna do some new stuff, if you're really here, I need you to show up for me in a new way. I need you to show me that you're here and do something new. And me living in Manhattan right now is definitely new. So do I know how I'm paying my rent next month? Let me tell you, no. But I am believing that if you can do this, if you can place me somewhere when I was home insecure, and you're setting me up. It's like, oh, you're doing something big, you're doing something expansive, and I'm still not gonna be able to call it out. I'm still not gonna be able to see it coming miles away, but I can see it coming miles away. You get me? I'm just continuing to walk with God on this thing. Like when I applied for this place, I had no idea how it was gonna turn out. When I walked around the building and was praying over the block, the neighbors, the area, all the things, I had no idea how it was going to pan out, and here I am. And so I'm continuing to do that same thing. And sometimes that's all God calls us to. He's like, give me a little bit and I will give you a lot. And that is the challenge, right? I think that's what is tough, but that's what faith is. It's activating, it's moving forward when you don't have all the details. It's moving forward when you feel silly. It's moving forward when you have no idea how it's going to pan out, but you're believing that the end is going to be in your favor. So friends, I leave you with this. I don't know how the heck this is gonna happen. I still don't know how it's happening, but I feel so much joy. I feel so much peace. I slept last night like a baby and it's because God showed up for me. And so I just want to remind you that he shows up for all of us. He does it on his time. He does it in his way. But the coordinates of your blessing are already outlined. They are on the map of life. And you are just walking with God to get there. You're not wishing that it'll happen. You're not like, okay, God, you got a plan for me, right? He's like, of course. Like, why would I create you and I have a plan for you? Keep that in mind as you're moving forward. Like, I promise you, I don't have no connects in this city. I have no connects. I don't know how this happened except God. And if you serve the God of the heavens and the earth, and you need something on the earth to come down from heaven, you're in luck because he's doing that. And he does it for people every day. So you next in line, believe it and you'll receive it.